Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I have another vintage block. This one is called Mosaic, and here it is. It's a Ohio star block with a square and square in the center, and then the outer corners are half square triangles. So these are all techniques that are easy to learn. And if you've been following me, I've done a lot of these in the past videos. This is a 12-inch block, and I've used some Darlene Zimmerman fabric as well as Lori Holt fabric in this block. So it goes together pretty quickly. So I hope you'll stay with me, and I'll show you how to make this block. Okay, here are the fabrics that you're going to need to make the Mosaic block. For A, you're going to need 2 5-inch squares. For B, you need 2 5.5-inch squares. C is 4 2.5-inch squares. D is 2 5.5-inch squares. E is 2 5-inch squares, and F is 1 4.5-inch square. Now on the back of the E and the D fabrics, you want to draw a diagonal line. So you can use whatever marking tool you like. I just used a number 2 pencil for this. So I'm going to adjust the camera and we'll get started. For the Mosaic block, there's 3 different units that we're going to make. We're going to make half square triangles, a square and a square unit, and then quarter square triangles. So I'm going to start with the half square triangles, and that means I need the A and the D squares, and I have 2 of each. And I'm going to pair these up and just make half square triangles. Now these are large pieces, and I don't have triangle paper that will fit these, so I'm doing it the method where you draw that line on the back. So that's the way the instructions are written, and on my patterns I usually write them this way because I know a lot of people don't have triangle paper and aren't interested in going to the expense of buying it. So this way the directions will be usable for anybody who wants to do it either way. Now I need to stitch a 1/4 inch away from both sides of this drawn line, and I'm going to put my stitch length at 2.0, and that's just my preferred stitch length. Now the default on my machine is 2.5, but I like it at 2.0. Okay, so now I'm going to cut on this drawn line. After I take my pins out, just cut them apart, and I'll have 4 half square triangles here. Okay, so you can see here, there we go, half square triangle. So these need to be pressed, and then I'm going to trim these down to 4.5 inches. Okay, so here are the half square triangles. Now I need to trim them down to 4.5 inches. So I have my 5-inch square ruler here, and I'm just going to line up the diagonal line with the seam, and the edges are going to go at the 4.5 inch mark, and then I'm going to trim these 2 sides so that I have a 4.5 inch square. Now this isn't going to trim off a whole lot, but it's going to be enough that's going to make a difference. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim off that dog ear. So I'm going to just repeat this with all 4 of these squares. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is to make the square in a square unit. So I need the F and the C squares. Now for the square in a square unit, I drew a diagonal line on the wrong side of the F squares because I'm going to sew right on that line, and I'm going to sew 2 opposite corners at a time. So this drawn line is going to go from one center to the other center. I don't want it going this direction, I want to go this way. So I'm just going to line that up, and then I'm going to sew directly on that line. And then I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to sew one on the opposite corner and do the same thing. I want that line to go from the center of one side to the center of the other. Oops. Okay, and then I want to trim off, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So trim off the outer corner. So that I have this. And then I'm going to press this open so that I will have this shape. So like that. And then I'm going to put the opposite corners on. Do it the same way. Go from, put that line so we're going from center to center. And if you want to pin these pieces, that's a good idea. And let's do the opposite corner. Now there is foundation paper to make square in a square units that you can buy. I don't happen to own any, so I just do it this way. Okay, and then I'm going to trim off the corners of these two. Then I'm going to press those open. So there we have the square in a square unit. Okay, next thing we need to do is to make the quarter square triangles. So I need the B and the D pieces. So the D's have a diagonal line drawn on the wrong side. So the first step in making quarter square triangles is to make half square triangles out of them. So we're going to put these right sides together, and these are 5.5 inch squares. So I'm going to go ahead and pin these. Get everything lined up. And then stitch 1/4 inch away from the drawn line. Okay, I'm going to take out the pins and I'm going to cut it apart on the drawn line. And this will give me my 2 half square triangles. which you can see here. And now I'm going to press these towards the darker fabric. Okay, so I have my 2 half square triangles, and then I'm going to take one of these, turn it on the wrong side. Now I'm going to draw a diagonal line from one corner to the other, going across perpendicular to my seam. Okay, so I'm going to lay this down. So I'm going to draw a diagonal line here, going perpendicular to the seam. And this dark blue fabric is a little bit harder to see, but I think it'll work fine. So yeah, I can see that. So let me grab the other one and do the same thing. Okay. Now I'm going to go make another set of half square triangles from the other two, and then we're going to put them together to make 4 quarter square triangles. So I'm going to go ahead, and this pair I won't need to draw the line on when I get them made into half square triangles. So let me go ahead and pin these. Okay, so now I have 2 with the lines drawn on the wrong side and then 2 without. Now, so I'm going to pair one with the line with one without, and we're going to put them right sides together, and we're going to put opposite colors together so that when you open them up, you've got, for me, you've got the background with the blue on both sides. So nest your seams together and line everything up, and I'm going to pin again a little bit closer to the seam this time, and I want to make sure I have that seam nested really snugly together. And now I'm going to sew 1/4 inch away from this drawn line. Okay, so let's remove the pins, and what we'll have is a 1/4 square triangle. See, this is what we'll have. But I'm going to cut these apart and press, and then show you what they look like when they're finished. And we do have to trim these down. Okay, so there is one of the finished 1/4 square triangles. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and trim these down. These need to be also 4.5 inches square. So when I put my ruler on it, I see they're just a little bit over. I'm just going to trim it just a little bit, just to keep it square on my rotary cutter. Now, if you have a 4.5 inch ruler, that would be ideal. this way. There we go. So there we have a 4.5 inch quarter square triangle. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim down the others, and then we'll lay out the units into rows and form the block, and then we'll sew those units together into the rows, and then we'll sew the rows together. Okay, now I have all the pieces that I need to make the block. I have the half square triangles, the quarter square triangles, and the square and a square unit. So the half square triangles are in the corners, and those triangles are going to face out like this. And then on the quarter square triangles, the background is going to be on the outer edge, like that. So then I need another half square, and then a quarter square triangle, a square and a square, another quarter square, half square triangle, quarter square triangle, and a half square triangle. So here's the mosaic block. So you can see this forms an Ohio star, and it just has a square and square unit on the inside, and then it has the corners that are half square triangles. So this is a really versatile block. There's lots you can do. You can do all kinds of things in here. You could do a 4-patch or a 9-patch. You can just use a single piece of fabric. You can do an applique in there, you know, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew all of these units into rows, and then sew the rows together, and then the block will be done. Okay, here's the finished block. I think that turned out pretty nice. I'm happy with the way that turned out and the way all the colors go together. One thing about using fabrics that are all in one fabric line, like these blues, is that they're all going to go together. I've got teal here, it's also in this fabric, and then I have this dark navy blue is also in this fabric, so they all go together. And then this is from a completely different designer, but it's still kind of the same 1930s look. So they all go well together, and just adds a little extra color, a little touch of yellow in there, and I think it's really pretty. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll give this block a try. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.